Welcome to this week's episode of Love in Life. This week I am having to be super organised. Something that when I need to, I can do very well. But if I don't need to, then I don't. But this is one of those weeks, a couple of weeks actually, where I have got so much going on. We have got lots of different uni open days to visit with Alfie. Tomorrow we're off up to Manchester, so that's exciting. And I'm also babysitting my nephew. I've got a wedding coming up next week. So yeah, there is lots going on. Oh, and I'm coming out of my cake retirement for this wedding because it is a family member. So that is basically the only time I will ever come out of my cake retirement is for very close family members. Every time I do, it just reminds me why I don't do it anymore. So I've got that to look forward to in the next 10 days. So yeah, I am having to be super organised. So I'm actually recording this at the beginning of the week, which is unheard of for me. Normally I record on Thursdays every single week, edit on a Thursday and launch on a Friday. So yeah, here's me on Tuesday afternoon. I've had 2 Reiki clients to the house today as well. And yeah, how are you? How are you getting on with whatever is going on in your life right now? I'd love to hear from you. As I always say, like hearing from you and, even if it's just to let me know what's going on in your life and if there's anything you want me to talk about, if there is something that's resonated with you. Hearing from people who listen to this podcast totally lights me up. And that's what I'm here for at the end of the day. So it is always really nice to hear from people. You can email me whenever you want. My email address is lisa@lisadavidge.co.uk, or you can DM me on Instagram. Now, I just want to say thank you to those who have opted to check out the Inner Circle for free for 30 days. Like I said, this offer isn't going to last forever. So I hope those of you who are checking it out are enjoying it. I know I've been in contact with quite a few of you and you are looking through the subliminals and working your way through some of the meditations. We also had an amazing live session on Sunday, which was all about creating safety from within. So do you remember a few weeks ago, I talked very much about the nervous system and how it shows up when we don't feel safe. So we looked in detail about what it looks like when we don't feel safe, like emotionally safe, like how this shows up in our life. And it was such an amazing session. It was so lovely. It's probably one of my favourite sessions of all time because it started off with that and we led into like feeling like we belong and what it makes you feel like when you don't feel like you belong somewhere. And I think we can all resonate with this. So these sessions that I talk about, they are very much like coaching sessions, so reflection sessions. We learn about why we do the things we do, why we feel the way we feel, and like really deeply reflect through very carefully curated coaching questions. And every single session is ended with a lovely meditation with some energetic support if you are live with me on the session. So because the session was on like safety, that was linked to the root chakra. So the people who were on the session were receiving in real time some energetic support for their root chakra at the time. So I don't know, if it sounds like the kind of thing that you would like to try, then why not come over and check out my portal. All you need to do is just email me saying yes please, and I will know exactly what you're saying yes please to. And I will add you to the portal so as you can have a look around, have a look at the previous sessions that we've done. And that's the best way you're going to see if it's for you. Anyway, I've been going on and on and on for a long time now. So I'm going to get into today's content, which is the real reason you keep putting things off. So have you ever noticed that some tasks take longer to think about than they do to actually complete? So things like the email that you've been putting off sending, the phone call that you've been putting off, the booking the appointment, replying to the message, updating your website, whatever it is you have been putting off, whatever is on your to-do list and gets carried over, the thing that would probably take 10 minutes, yet somehow it is still on your to-do list after 3 or 4 weeks. So today I want to explore why we do this. This is classic procrastination, and contrary to popular belief, procrastination isn't usually laziness. Sometimes it is. 9 times out of 10, I would say it's not laziness. It's often protection. So what are we protecting ourselves from? So the first thing is that we think that we are avoiding the task, but actually we are often avoiding a feeling. The task is rarely the problem. It's actually what we think the task might create. So what do I mean by that? An example, if I send the email, they might reject me. So it's the feeling that comes with that rejection that we're actually avoiding. If I launch the offer, people won't buy, again, going back to rejection. If I have the conversation, it might be uncomfortable. If I start, I might discover I'm not good enough. Often our brains put a block on actually doing something to avoid us feeling those feelings that we're scared of feeling. This is exactly what our subconscious's job is to do, actually, is to protect us from those feelings that we've had in the past. It's actually telling us it's safer not to send the email than to face rejection. So sometimes your subconscious can actually be your worst enemy. Sometimes it can be our best friend because it does actually keep us safe. But we don't need to be safe from rejection. Rejection is rejection. We learn from it and we move on. But we are so often so scared of feeling that discomfort that we avoid the task in the first place, but we don't even realise why we're avoiding it. The second reason why we might procrastinate is sometimes it's perfectionism in disguise. Sometimes it's not even in disguise. And I actually know this one well. We tell ourselves, I'll do it when I've got more time. I'll do it when I know exactly what to say. I'll do it when I've planned it properly. And I did this for a very long time with my inner circle, actually. Now, don't get me wrong. I am very happy with the lovely group of ladies who I've got in the inner circle. But until recently, I have avoided putting it off because I'll do it when I've got enough content in there. I'll do it when I've figured everything out. But when we do this, often what we are saying is, I'll do it when I can guarantee it goes perfectly. But obviously, life doesn't necessarily offer those guarantees. It doesn't offer those guarantees. And actually, if you are saying to yourself, I'll do it when I've got more time, because you haven't actually got the time and you're actually prioritizing your time wisely, then that's amazing. But if you're saying to yourself, I'll do it when I've got more time, when actually you've got the time, but you are secretly worried that it's not going to be perfect, just be aware of why it is that you need it to be perfect. Okay, the next reason why we might procrastinate is because overwhelm often creates a freeze response. And I don't mean this in like a super dramatic way. I mean in a putting off way. So this is especially true for busy women. I mean, what woman isn't busy? But when everything feels important and often nothing actually gets done, but your brain sees school forms, it sees work deadlines, it sees emails, it sees life admin, meal planning, relationships, housework, and then suddenly a simple task becomes one more thing on an already overflowing list of things that you are already carrying. So because of this, the overwhelm kicks in and the nervous system goes into freeze mode. You're overloaded. And again, I know this one very well. Funnily enough, this is something that came up for me in the session. I always do the sessions with my inner circle as well because I'm always learning, I'm always developing. So you will always find me doing the work as well. But this was something that came up for me as well, is that I often have a never-ending list of things to do, but it's not because I don't have offers of help. I don't like asking for help, and I often actually reject help, stupidly. And I did this on Sunday. I'm not going to go into the story too much, but basically, because I had so many bloody things to do and I was too concerned about doing them all myself, I rushed making a coffee and ended up pouring liquid coffee into my coffee grinder, which totally fucked it, as you can imagine. And then Craig had to fix it. So I actually created more of a problem because I didn't think to just ask Craig to make a coffee because I was so busy. How ridiculous. Okay, so the fourth reason why we might procrastinate is because our nervous system doesn't actually care about logic. So what do I mean by that? If somewhere in your past it wasn't safe to make a mistake, if you were highly criticised and that left a painful feeling with you, if getting things wrong somehow led to embarrassment, and if maybe even success attracted attention that you didn't want for some reason. So logically, you know the thing isn't a big deal. The thing that you're procrastinating over isn't a big deal, but your nervous system doesn't respond to logic. It responds to emotions that you've probably stored for a very, very long time. And then taking action can feel surprisingly vulnerable, surprisingly unsafe. Even when your conscious mind, which is where your logic lies, obviously, even when your conscious mind knows better, the nervous system doesn't respond to logic. And then the last thing that I've got written down, the last reason why we might procrastinate is because that is just how our brain works. Some of you might be ADHD, some of you might not and just resonate with this anyway. But sometimes our brain works better, responds better to urgency. Sometimes it responds to novelty. Sometimes it responds to deadlines. And this is something I know I've talked about in the past. I always leave things to the last minute because I respond better under pressure. Me and Craig have that little joke. He said it to me the other day. We work best under pressure. I don't really know what to say about that. It's very annoying and it's something I wish I didn't do, but here we are. But this is why some people can organise an entire holiday in one evening, yet sending an email they put off for a month. It's not always about organisation. Sometimes it's not even as deep as your subconscious. Sometimes it's the fact that your brain needs urgency, and if it doesn't have the urgency, then it doesn't prioritise it. Sometimes, some of us, our brain is just looking for enough energy to get started. So, what actually helps with procrastination? I don't want to end up being one of those people who gives another lecture about discipline. I'm sure I probably have in the past. Just do it, just get on with it. Like, yes, sometimes in an ideal world, it would be great just to get on with it. But instead, you could try asking yourself, what am I actually avoiding here? And the answers that come up are often fascinating. Like just that simple question, what am I actually avoiding here? Maybe it's rejection, like I said earlier. Maybe it's a fear of judgment. Maybe it's a fear of failure. Maybe it's fear of success. Some people do have a fear of success because of the attention that brings. maybe it's because of not knowing where to begin. So what are you actually avoiding by procrastinating? And then ask yourself, what would make this feel safer? Not easier, safer. Because that's often the real question that we need to ask. Sometimes it might be breaking it down, doing things in little steps. Sometimes it might be asking for help. Sometimes it doesn't feel safe to ask for help. And these responses to why we procrastinate are going to be different for every single person, because we all have different brains and we all have different experiences that make us perceive what is safe and what is unsafe. Maybe what would make it safer is to give yourself permission to do a messy draft first. A lot of the time it is easy to just say, just get on with it. A lot of the time it is easy to just say, it's okay if it goes wrong. You learn from your mistakes. But if there is something that has happened that has made you feel like it's not safe to make mistakes, then that might often be the reason why we don't feel safe to make the mistake and to actually get on with it, with what we know we need to do. So next time you catch yourself thinking, saying, I'll do it later, or notice yourself carrying a task over on your to-do list for a week, then another week, then another week, just ask yourself those questions, because it might not be the task itself that is actually the problem. It might be part of you that is trying to keep safe. And when we see ourselves with compassion instead of criticism, like saying things like, oh my God, I'm so unorganized, or I just need to get on with it. When we show ourselves compassion, it becomes easier to understand. So I'm going to pop some journaling questions in the show notes. So make sure you head down to the show notes. And I also want to remind you, if you've tried all these things and tried to stop procrastinating and want to look deeper into it, why not consider booking a belief coding session with me? I help clients access the root cause of these patterns. So we work out what subconscious beliefs are actually running your show. So many people come to me thinking that their issue is, I don't know, procrastination, like we're talking about today, or people pleasing, or lack of confidence in themselves. But actually, through this very clever technique and very clever questions that I ask you, it actually turns out that it is fear of rejection. It is a fear of failure. That is actually running the show. That is actually the root cause of these annoying patterns that make us really annoyed with ourselves. I've just updated my website actually. So I'm going to pop a link to that in the show notes. So if you're interested, check that out as well. You can always have a free call with me to ask me any questions or to see if it can work for you. But take a look at that. Right. Thank you so much for listening today. I will speak to you next week. Have a great week, whatever you're doing. And don't forget to head to the show notes and do those journaling questions. Okay, sending you so much love. Bye.